What's cracking, everybody? It's Blastburn Felrose here, bringing you some Pokemon Go Battle League content. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a slam-banging banger of a team from the Ultra League Open, starring our boy Shadow Charizard. Yeah, it's just so good. Like, so basically, came back to Ultra League, said, I should really play a Shadow Charizard team. It's really good. And this is what I came up with. So the idea behind the team is we have Trevenant and Charizard as our core, and then we have Weezing in the back as just a general, like, safe swap generalist to draw out those G-Fisks and Swamperts and just things that would annoy the Charizard. And it did its job, and then some. Let me tell you, the Weezing, honestly, one of the strongest picks on this team, but Shadow Charizard just, it sweeps almost everything. So let's take a look at these battles, folks, and get right into it. And if you aren't already aware, I have a Patreon Discord where these teams are debuted as soon as I find them, and most of the time my patrons just grab the teams and just gain a bunch of elo with them. So if you'd like early access to the teams, as well as all of my strategies, tips, and meta-analysis, check out the Patreon link in the description, as well as if you're looking for some coaching, I am on Metafy. Check the link in the description for that, as well as the socials and all that fun stuff. So anyway, we got a Trevenant into the Ampharos, and what I do here is I look to bail out to try and catch a Brutal Swing, and I look like I have succeeded. Now, we do come in and a Wall Rain comes in, and this is a problem because Wall Rain actually kind of slaps the team if the opponent plays it right. Now, my opponent comes in and is going to go straight for, I think they go straight for the Earthquake here, which is going to be, unfortunately, no, that's an Icicle Spear. They were trying to bait me there, but they go for double Icicle Spear, and I'm thinking if I can live this, it'd be good. I want to take the, I want to take my shield advantage, and I want to try and take that to my Charizard and use that to sweep this person's team. So Trevenant's going to come in and has a move loaded, but unfortunately I over farm and somehow end up losing. I didn't lose CMP. I got the one-turn desync lag, which is one of the more wonderful, frustrating things. So because of my over farm there, I do shield, and I just go straight for Shadow Ball here. It takes out the Wall Rain, and then I'm going to see what my opponent wants to come in with. I have a loaded Trevenant, which is really strong. They do not have any energy on their Ampharos, so I know that I can go up to 5 Shadow Claws before letting loose the Shadow Ball, and the opponent now has a Sylveon in the back, and man, the clouds have parted above me. The sun is raining down on my shoulders, and my Charizard comes in to annihilate this poor Sylveon's existence, and my opponent surrenders because they know it's over. So well played to my opponent. Good job. Good game. All right, Dragonite lead. This really sucks. All right, this really sucks. So I immediately bail into Weezing. There's no real good way to go about this. I try to farm up a bunch of energy, and my opponent brings in a Shadow Magnezone. Now, I go for Brutal Swings here because I'm not going to go for Play Rough. My opponent shields. My opponent respects the Overheat immediately, and that's one of the dangerous things about Galarian Weezing is that you can fake Overheat even if you're not running it, and they have to respect it because my opponent is assuming that because I swapped out immediately into my Weezing, I may have another Fairy in the back. So they're fearing for their life, trying to make sure that they get alignment here. And all they're really afraid of is a Charizard at this point. So I got both shields off my opponent. At this point, I'm more than happy to let my Weezing go. I know that Trevenant also doesn't really have to worry about taking any energy, but because my opponent only has Wild Charge and Mirror Shot, I go ahead and I swap in my Trevenant now that they're down shields, and I just farm. And now what I'm hoping to do is use these shields to get to a Shadow Ball to take out the Dragonite. My opponent, the only reason that I made this hard switch was because my opponent dropped both shields. If they hadn't done so, I would have definitely probably lost the game because Dragonite's just a menace. But my opponent lets it go because they have no shields, and there's a Registeel in the back, and I think you can all figure out what would have happened if they hadn't surrendered. So good game to my opponent. Definitely was their downfall by double shielding the Magnezone, but I think they made the right call considering how I played the game. They may have felt that I had double Fairy in the back. So they were trying to get the alignment from Dragonite onto the Trevenant and then get the Fairy onto the Registeel. So when it comes to Steelix leads, because Trevenant can fit 7 Shadow Claws inside of 5 Dragon Tails before they can get to that crunch, I will go ahead and go for the Shadow Ball straight away, and then dip out to Weezing to eat the crunch or Psychic Fangs, or my opponent really wants to stay in, let me get energy out to an Earthquake, that's fine. But now they have brought in a Trevenant, which is a fatal mistake for this trainer, because Brutal Swing is doing super effective damage to them, and I have still got shields. So my opponent essentially has to let all of them go. But at this point, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to take my shields, and I'm going to let them run once again. letting Charizard sweep with the shield advantage. So, Trevenant will come in here, I think, or I'm going to come in, yeah, I'm going to come up with the Trevenant. I don't think my Charizard's even touched the field yet in this video, to be honest. Weezing and Trevenant are doing all the work. So I'll shield this up because it could be a Shadow Ball and I need to respect it. And then at this point, it's Steelix, which I'm going to lob another Shadow Ball at. And once again, because I've got that extra shield, my opponent is either going to have to shield here or lose their... they lose it. Now, here's... Okay, look at this, folks. All right. This is a problem. So my opponent has a Tapu Fini, and they could easily just farm me down here. But the thing with Shadow Charizard is that you have to respect these Blast Burns. Look where that Tapu Fini is. My opponent has to shield this, and then my Trevenant can take out the Tapu Fini with a shield. But they decide not to shield it. They're calling it bait, and that was unfortunately the end of the game there for them. So good game to my opponent. Really could have gone the other way had they shielded that Blast Burn. So Trevenant lead because I have two better answers in the back. I'm going to swap immediately. Going to go for this Brutal Swing as soon as I see that they're in the middle of that 5th Shadow Claw animation, just because, or 6th, I don't know how many it is. But I want to make sure they can't swap to catch on something that would resist the Brutal Swing. So I shield up a potential Shadow Ball here. And it's the Shadow Ball, which makes that a really good shield. And I'm going to over farm a bit because I'm actually... I mean, I'm just expecting my opponent to try and catch at some point. So I'm going to build up some energy, and I'm going to start hitting this Wall Rain that's come in. Now, the Wall Rain has come into a point where it's actually very dangerous for it because it can't go for an Earthquake before I can get to this next Play Rough. And I don't know if this is a IV-related, IV-dependent matchup, but I don't normally think I win CMP here. But anyway, my opponent loses CMP. They go for an Icicle Spear, and instead of getting farmed down, I hard swap in my Trevenant, let it eat this Icicle Spear, because, again, Shadow Charizard with shield advantage, and I'm going to go for the Seed Bomb before my opponent can get to another move. And I'm expecting the Trevenant to come in here, and I'm hoping that in doing so, without a shield, my opponent is going to just eat dirt. They're going to eat fire. They're going to eat a lot of fire. I will respect a Shadow Ball here, I think, unless I was counting. No, I was definitely respecting a Shadow Ball here. My opponent swaps into Tapu Fini, and I think this is the game that I lost because what are you going to do about it, right? They're going to get to the Surf before I can get to another Blast Burn. So this particular time, unfortunately, my Charizard is not a counter to a Tapu Fini. I tried to catch a Surf just in case they weren't quite there yet, but... No luck there. Unfortunately, the opponent does definitely comp me here, and I'm just not going to be able to make it. But Wall Rains are really tough for this team, so I kind of had to make that play and not get farmed down. So Trevenant lead. Once again, I am going to swap immediately into the Weezing. Or no, I'm not. Okay, this time I decided to get kind of cute. So... Oh, this is that game. I remember this game now. I was trying to catch a Seed Bomb bait on my Weezing, and I ended up catching these hands instead. And they go for the Shadow Ball, and then my opponent's going to come in with a Melmetal. I have not seen too many Melmetals, but because they countered me with Melmetal, I'm going to assume that they're probably running Iron Bash. But as we saw with the Magnezone, if you can fake an overheat, you will usually get a shield. My opponent goes for Rock Slide, which is going to allow me to get to a last-second Brutal Swing here. And that'll do some decent damage to the Melmetal. Now, the Melmetal is running Rock Slide, so I'm assuming it's also running Superpower, which means it's actually not that bad into my Trevenant. I'm going to go for a Shadow Ball here. And I'm going to look to try and take out this Melmetal before it can get to a move on me. Now, I don't think that Shadow Ball is enough to KO, which it's not. But I'm going to leave the shield advantage here. Remember, my opponent had a Trevenant in the lead. And because they have a Melmetal in the back, I'm kind of reading that they may potentially have a Registeel in the back. So I'm going to use that as an expectation as to how I'm going to play this game. And they're going to go for a Seed Bomb bait. And honestly, in hindsight, I don't even know if that was enough for a Shadow Ball, but I'm going to respect it anyway. I'm going to throw my Dragon Claw here just to get rid of the Trevenant, and they have a G-Fisk. Now, this is going to be a very difficult task because my opponent vastly outpaces, and they will one-shot me. So, what I'm going to look to do here is I'm going to look to try and land a bait. Yep. I have to just hope and assume that I'm going to be able to land this. My opponent shields the Dragon Claw, and with one more wing attack on the CMP, Charizard's going to get to the Blast Burn, and one shot, that's Stunfisk. And because my opponent did not have any energy on their Melmetal, they are not able to withstand the wing attacks and go down the fast moves. And that's a great game. Good, well played to my opponent. Tentacruel leads. I've played a few of these. The way that I played this out is I'm going to farm all the way up to 10 because 10 is where the Sludge Wave is from the Tentacruel. And I'll throw the Shadow Ball. I usually win CMP here because I'm pretty sure Trevenant has a much higher attack stat than Tentacruel. And if they shield, whoop. If they don't shield, then good. I can get rid of this because my backline does not want to see this Tentacruel whatsoever. Now, my opponent's staying in here, and they're going to go for Acid Spray. So once they go for an Acid Spray here, I know I don't need to shield because they're not going to throw a Scald unless they build up to one. But yeah, I have to respect a Sludge Wave because that will pretty much knock out my my Trevenant. But my opponent gets knocked out, and now they have a Shadow Charizard like coming with like wheezing, and this is just painful. And the only thing that my opponent needs to worry about here is the Brutal Swing. So I'm just going to keep going for Brutal Swings and as many as I can before going down. I know Blast Burn just about KOs my Wheezing, especially with the Wing Attack damage. So with 1 HP, though, going to be able to hang on with the Wheezing and get another Brutal Swing off. See if this grabs a shield from my opponent, which is helpful. So at this point now what I can do is I can come in with my own Charizard here, and I'm going to have to start doing something with energy, but my opponent's not responding, and I'm starting to wonder if they may have gotten that one bug that we have all been getting lately that causes your energy and everything to look weird. So I'm assuming that's what happened, and they got caught in the lag, so I'm sorry to my opponent there. That sucks. It's happened to me a couple of times. Thankfully, it hasn't been too bad for me lately, but I hate it. All right, so Charizard leads. Here's what I do. I'm going to build up to 7, CMP tie on the first move, shield it in case it's a Blast Burn. If my opponent goes for Dragon Claw, I hate everything. If they go for the Blast Burn, though, you can safely go for a Shadow Ball here on the second move without having to worry about being taken out. Now, this could be a Blast Burn here, but I'm going to call it Dragon Claw, and hopefully it's Dragon Claw. No, it's Blast Burn. Opponent KOs like 16 Trevenants with that Blast Burn. And now is an uphill battle. We still have even shields. I can do some decent chip damage with this, but my opponent gets to a Blast Burn because I'm not good at counting. And I'm like, well, if this is a Blast Burn, I can't shield it. Chunks my poor Wheezing. Poor Wheezing. I will get to another one, though, before they get to a move, so I'm going to come in instead with my Charizard. My opponent doesn't swap out, doesn't get to a move, and then they top left. I think. Or is that another game? No, they don't top left. All right, never mind. No, we still have a battle here. There was another game where I did that to someone's Charizard and they top left. They catch the... That's right. They catch the Blast Burn on their Trevenant because they have Registeel Trevenant. Shadow Charizard's about to clap the cheeks off this person, unfortunately, so I'm going to go for another Blast Burn here because I know the counts and I have a shield. I know that I can get another Blast Burn off, and even if they throw a Zap Cannon and lower my attack, that is going to almost KO this Registeel, and we don't get the attack drop. That means that this Blast Burn is going to hurt. 2 of my opponent's backline Pokemon getting one-shot by Blast Burn. You'll love to see it. I'm going to kaboom the stupid Registeel even though it lived. My Registeel's not XL. It would have lost. I definitely would have gotten one shot by that thing. Nidoqueen back from the dead. Coming in here, and I have to stay in because this thing is not comfortable on Wheezing or against Charizard. Nidoqueen can honestly just tear through my Charizard, and Wheezing obviously is not doing much damage here, so I'm going to stay in. I'm going to commit for at least a little bit. I'm going to try and see if I can get some damage off on this Nidoqueen. Shadow Ball is going to come through, and if my opponent shields this, that's fine, because I'm assuming at this point they've probably got Scrafty in the back, which means my back line is fine. I'm going to try and lure something out, but my opponent's not swapping out. And at this point, I'm assuming that they've probably got at least Double Dark or some sort of, you know, facsimile thereof in the back with their Nidoqueen in the lead, which is a common pairing, right? As soon as I ever see a Nidoqueen in the lead, I'm almost always going to assume there's a Scrafty back there somewhere. It's just how it is. I've always come to assume this, and that's how I play these games, is I'm like, okay, there's going to be a Scrafty back there somewhere. Let's play to that knowledge. So I'm able to get 2 shields off my opponent because they don't want to lose any of their Nidoqueen here. They want to try and maintain alignment with the Trevenant, but I have a Shadow Charizard, so they're going to come in with a Greedent. All right, now I've got 2 shields, and again, they're not swapping out. They've got to have a Scrafty in the back. Based on their actions, I'm going to just assume there's a Scrafty here. So I'm going to tank 1 Body Slam, and I'm going to make absolute sure that I'm throwing with perfectly good timing here. I don't want to let my opponent get any free energy, so I'm going to go on 1 Wing Attack, 4 Wing Attacks, or 7, depending on the amount of energy that I've currently got, and make sure that I never go over. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make sure they cannot get another Body Slam and force another shield off of me. So I'm going to go straight for Dragon Claw, and that'll KO. And there's the Scrafty, just like we predicted, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to go for the Blast Burn here because we get to that one before they're going to get to their Foul Play, and this is going to hurt a lot. Still doesn't take out Scrafty, though, surprisingly. But I could honestly let this go, and I could Shadow Claw down with Trevenant, but I'll take the I'll take the safe route and just wing attack down with Charizard. Well played to my opponent, but read that team honestly like a book. Nidoqueen teams are just really easy. So nice, easy lead here. We get Deoxys. A lot of the things on this team beat Deoxys. So my opponent safe swaps into a G-Fisk, and honestly, it's fine with me. I know from experience that my Weezing has a really decent matchup with the Brutal Swings against that Deoxys. So as long as I can maintain switch advantage or get shield advantage here, I'm totally fine with that. Opponent's going to go for these rock slides. They did overfarm by quite a bit, so I just have to be careful with that. They're probably not looking to expend a shield. Honestly, my opponent's probably just happy enough that I'm not keeping this Deoxys, or keeping their Deoxys on my Trevenant. So I'm going to go ahead and let this move go. My opponent actually throws a resisted Earthquake. I think that does about the same, honestly, as a rock slide. But now we're going to see what my opponent's third is, because their Deoxys... Oh, okay, their Deoxys does come in, and I'm going to launch a Shadow Ball at it. And I'm probably going to come straight in with the Weezing here, because, yeah, I come straight in with the Weezing because I know that I can just two-shield through anything with Charizard. There's literally almost nothing that I can't go through Charizard with two shields with. So they threw a Psycho Boost, and I'm immediately going to go for this Brutal Swing. They decided not to dip out here. So the super effective damage from the Brutal Swing is going to come through, and they used Psycho Boost earlier, so their attack's lowered, so I'm just going to assume I can live this. After having played this matchup out in Factions back in Open the last cycle, I know that I can. And now my opponent has a Wall Rain. Now this is going to get tricky, because not only did they get the farm down, I don't get my Brutal Swing, but they are also going to be able to get to multiple moves, but by using the Force. And what I did was I just counted to 10 here, because I assumed that this person was probably going to try to throw when they got to 2 Icicle Spears. So I go ahead and catch on Trevenant. I've got 2 shields. I just need to throw 2 Blast Burns here, and this is a good game. So I'm just going to get these moves off and shield everything that comes my way at this point. I could live 1 Icicle Spear if I want to, but I'm not really willing to risk it. I don't remember how much energy the Deoxys had, though, so I will let this go, because I know that I can live that Icicle Spear, and I want to save a shield just in case that Deoxys had a Rock Slide loaded. And here I expected the opponent to try and catch a move, so I overfarmed and waited for it to appear on my screen. As a seasoned player at this point, I can kind of get a sense for when my opponent's going to try to catch a move. That was screaming move catch to me, so I held on to my energy, and I threw the Dragon Claw when I saw the Deoxys come in, because I didn't want to take that Rock Slide. So great lead here, and this is why this team went really well for me, honestly, is like the first 3 sets, I had like a literal streak of like 7 or 8 games where the opponent was double weak to Trev, like in front and back. So Trev did a lot of work, and Charizard just kind of cleaned everything up. So my opponent's going to be able to shield up that Shadow Ball, and I'm going to catch what would probably be a Crunch. I counted to 5 here. So we catch the Crunch on the Weezing, which is really good. And now what I'm going to do is just going to go for Brutal Swings. Now they're going to be able to go for some Psychic Fangs. They did have some energy already loaded here. So I'm going to go for the Brutal Swings with good timing here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to throw the Brutal Swing. And then with the next one, I can throw after 1. And then afterwards, I'm just hoping that my opponent decides to shield once again, respecting the overheat. Like I said, why we build up to so much energy is to get people to respect those overheats. Now the opponent's going to come in with the Tapu Fini. My switch clock is not up yet, but I will be able to land this player off. My opponent decided to invest both shields into their Steelix, and Tapu Fini is not going to appreciate having Trevenant come in to Seed Bomb it like this, but my opponent gets to a move, and I didn't think there were enough for Moonblast, but I'm like, you know what, knowing my luck, it's probably Moonblast. So I'm going to use this opportunity now to farm up to almost 100 energy, let loose a Seed Bomb that'll probably KO, if not come close to KOing this Tapu Fini. Oh, definitely, yeah, KOs from that range. And then there's either their Steelix with no shields. And honestly, nothing really appreciates a loaded Trevenant, except for Scrafty. That one's a bit of a pain to me. But think about this, right? I have a shield, and I have a Charizard. So I'm going to use up my my charge move energy here, and I'm going to burn the switch clock, and I'm going to come in with my Charizard. Or no, I'm going to come in with the Weezing to force them to bring out the Steelix so that I can get it low. In hindsight, I probably could have just come in with Charizard. It would have been fine. But the Weezing basically baits out their Steelix because they're not going to stay in and take a player off on the Scrafty. So this is going to allow me to force them to throw their energy, and now Charizard can just come in and just farm down, and then is going to be able to take that Scrafty for a Blast Burn. Now, the opponent does get to a move, but I know it's probably just a Psychic Fang, so I just let it go, save the shield, and then I'm like 2 away from this Blast Burn, and we're just going to let it rip. opponent gets to a move, I will shield this in case it's a foul play. I know that those do plenty of damage, especially when I have a Shadow Charizard and there's a debuff involved. So we're going to go for this Blast Burn, and we're going to get another boom. Takes out that Scrafty, and that's going to be a good game. And that was the last battle on a 9-1 run to get me within striking range of Legend. And if you're keen, tomorrow is the Legend run. I hit Legend today as of recording these videos. So excited to share that team tomorrow. Hit the subscribe button, turn on those notifications, all the shilling and self-deprecating things that we YouTube people say to do in every video. Just turn it all on so you can get that video, because everybody who's tried that team today said it slapped. Myself and another one of my Patreon members did. But this team also was just destroying souls for like a week straight. So both this team and the one you're going to see tomorrow are fantastic teams. But once again, everybody, thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.